The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
You've made it through another week to make it to this. Another broadcast of the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. All week long, you have to endure the idiocy, the nonsensical and illogical, the outright government knows best agenda of all the other noise occurring during the week. One way you can avoid all that garbage is just to ignore it. Don't listen to it. You don't need it. So why fill your brain with it? It's all a bunch of baloney anyway, from both the left and the right sides of the political spectrum. You can save yourself all that trouble by turning off the static and tuning in right here. That would be the Patrick Riggins Show on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. And if you've been listening, I guess you heard George at the end of his show there talking about WNOX here, which is switching over to another format, and everyone's wondering where all the radio shows are going. Well, we will be migrating probably to another station here in town. We'll see what happens, but you can keep an eye on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. You don't have to be a member of Facebook to go to that page. You can just type it in, even if you have nothing to do with Facebook. We'll keep you updated as to where the show and the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network will actually be moving to. But until we get something firmed up, I guess we won't start mentioning that here. So I was talking to Tori here. Speaking of which, Tori's sitting right here to my left, our show producer, and unfortunately, he kind of goes with this station. So if we move around, we're not going to have him, but we're going to try to get him. So
hot commodity.
He is. I think that would be a good move if we can work a way to get you over where we're going, probably going.
Well, you know, never know what happens. I never know what could happen.
Well, you still got the band gigs, though, and the...
I still got both bands in the Pirate Radio 13, throw it in there.
So, I was going to ask if you want to plug that radio station.
Yes, that is pirateradio13.com.
And what is on Pirate Radio 13?
Oh, a little bit of everything, actually. From Sinatra to Metallica, whatever we feel like playing.
So, and I've listened to it. It's a pretty good station.
Well, thank you. Me and my wife do it out of the love of music and do it out of the basement of our home, and we hide from the children down in the basement doing it. So. But it is, once again, pirateradio13.com. Or if you want to go on the mobile, we don't have the mobile site set up yet. You can get us on TuneIn Radio or shoutcast.com. So if you got any of those apps, just go in and put Pirate Radio 13 in and listen to us. It is totally uncensored radio fun.
Oh gosh!
No, we're not regulated by the FCC, so we get to say and do whatever we want, and we do.
And there's no pirates on this radio.
Yarg.
No.
No.
Just you. Well, actually, I've heard you on there a couple of times, and then you play mostly music, though. Correct?
Yes.
And also, for you regular listeners, you know Tori's also in a band or bands, which is Court Jar. And
Beat Club.
Beat Club, which used to be
The Invaders.
The Invaders, yeah. So if you see those bands mentioned or at clubs or anything, be sure and go out and listen to them, because you'll see Tori up there beating on the drums. He kind of looks like what's the guy on the Muppets? Animal, yeah.
That's what everybody says. So.
He's got the hair for it.
That's what everybody says. But no, once again, I told George the same thing and I mean it with both of you guys. I've really enjoyed producing your show.
Here comes the lying.
No, I told you this before we went on the air. Shut up.
Yeah, that was just to cover your tracks.
No, I've really enjoyed all of the shows that I do on Sundays, but, you know, some I like more.
Yeah. The only reason you like this one more is because it's the last one.
That, yes. And you let me talk.
And
you bring me food and water.
So you're kind of like
I love you, man.
You're kind of like the show pet.
I'll accept that in some weird, creepy way. Yeah. I'll accept
that. Well, we just called you Animal, and we bring you water and food.
You just don't keep me under the stairs?
No, you just keep showing up at the door, and we just let you in. And you bark when some strangers come in the yard.
Well, I can.
All right. Well, like I said, this will probably be our last show here on this station, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We're going to have a regular show today, and thank you for everybody also who was probably at the lake last week, since it was nice, but you're probably at home. Tori and I had a short debate on last week's show about what people listen to while boating, and I was taking the side. I'm pretty sure it's not talk radio. So
it could be.
It could be. Yep.
It could be.
As Madonna said on Wayne's World. No, it was on Saturday Night Live to Wayne and Garth. Yeah, when monkeys fly out of my butt. So.
Which with Madonna, that is entirely possible.
Yes. But again, thank you for everyone to listening to us today with the bad weather. And if you're sitting at home listening to the radio because you can't go out, I promise to not waste your valuable weekend time. And
too late.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to get on with it. In fact, I think that you'll find that by listening to the show today, you'll find yourself wanting to catch it every week. If you miss some of our past shows, you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's all together, Patrick Riggins Show. And just about every show we have done is archived on there, along with a few interviews I've done on some other radio shows as well. We got copies of them. But we're up on the first break here on the Patrick Riggins Show. When we come back, we'll be talking about the non-talkable, the non-mentionable here. And playing a little Anthony song, because we'll be moving out. We'll be talking about religion and politics. We'll talk about that White House Correspondents' dinner, and we'll work in a little something about Syria. When we come back here on the Patrick Riggins Show, join us.
Across from the medical center, and he's trading in his Chevy for a Cadillac. You ought to know by now.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
And welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network.
I'm keeping you on your toes.
Tori does keep me on my toes.
On your toes.
Keeps me
with my
thinking.
mistakes.
Yeah, but see, no one knows it's a mistake unless
I just said that.
Until you say, "Hey, that song wasn't cued."
Hey, I own up to my mistake. Yeah. I own up to what I did.
Well, that's the thing. If you admit to them and then learn from them, you're fine.
I didn't say nothing about learning. I'll just admit.
Just admit
step
it.
by step, baby steps.
Well, we're making that's the key. Is take little baby steps. All right, this week I want to talk about something that everyone will tell you not to discuss, and that is religion and politics. Although we talk a lot about politics on here, of course, it's a political show. But the reason I want to talk about these two things is because lately I have heard more and more conservatives spouting off about them, how our country is falling apart, how morals are absent in today's culture. Liberals don't really mix religion and politics. Well, not organized religion anyway. They may worship something other than a deity, like the environment or science, or heck, even themselves or other humans. But for the purposes of this segment, we'll concentrate on organized religion. So many times, and especially here lately, I don't know if I'm just starting to notice it more or if it's actually being brought up more frequently on conservative radio and television programs. I tend to think it's the latter because we have a Democrat in the office of president. And when we have a Democrat in that office, all of a sudden, all the conservatives get God. You don't hear much about him when their guy or gal is in the office, but when they're out of power, at least as far as the presidency is concerned, when Republicans are out of power, they start preaching like every day Sunday. What I want to point out and make you aware of is religion and politics are two totally different things. A political system has nothing to do with religion, and vice versa. You can have a religion without any sort of political system. A lot of conservatives, and I would include the major leaders of the movement, those big guns on talk radio and television, and those prominent people in Congress as well. A lot of these conservatives want to use religion as some sort of club to beat you over the head and get you to do what they think you should be doing, supporting what they think you should be supporting. Now, the reason conservatives do this is because they are, in essence, big government people. Just like the Democrats, or most of the Democrats and liberals, they castigate week after week. The only difference is the conservatives can't say they're big government people because they are constantly making the argument for smaller and more limited government. That's their bread and butter. But when you look at what they do, they want to tell other people what to do, just like the liberals. They just use religion instead of government to bully people into acting how they think they should act. For instance, don't try to get government out of marriage, because God will send this country to hell if you do. And don't try to get the government out of medicine, because old people and poor children will die and God commands you to care for them. And don't take God off our money, because this is a Christian country and God will send us all to hell for doing that. Every single one of us. Because we stood by and let our government not acknowledge God on our currency. Now, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I'm pretty sure I don't remember Jesus demanding his name be put on the Romans' currency. Nor did he demand that they put his name above the doorways of government buildings. Do you think it might be, and I'm going out on a limb here, but do you think it might be because God wants a personal relationship with you, not your government, not your money? Do you really think the being who created this entire universe, if you're to believe the Bible, this being who created everything you see around you, really cares about having his name on anything we build, anything we make? Or do you think he would rather you proclaim these things yourself? Have the guts to stand up for him instead of trying to go in the societal back door and not have to stand up and be counted. I can just see it up at the pearly gates. Well, you see, sir, I fought to have your name put on our money. I voted for that. I voted to keep under God in the Pledge of Allegiance. I voted for all of those things, just like a good Christian should. And, of course, then God will say, hey, did you forgive your brother for stealing that car that time? Did you forgive your sister for making that snide remark to your wife at the family reunion? When that person at work needed to hear about me, did you have the guts to tell him you were a Christian and invite them to church? Or did you or even just invite them over to your house for a meal? Did you live a life that inspired others? Or did you gossip? Were you nosy? Did you try to mind everyone else's business instead of keeping your life straight? Did you constantly try to tear down other people and their accomplishments? I think once you realize how insignificant a lot of these little outward, shallow expressions of piety are, then you're just one step closer to becoming a better person. You start realizing the difference between religion and politics. Religion is morals. Politics is about respecting an individual's freedom and liberty. You can be immoral and still be free. You can be living under tyranny and still be moral. One doesn't necessarily affect the other. Religion didn't make this country great. There have been numerous examples of religious countries in the world that haven't achieved half of what we've achieved. Even Christian countries that haven't made the accomplishments we have made. So, what was it? Well, what do we have that other countries didn't? Well, it's freedom. Freedom to do as we wished. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to live how we wanted to live. Freedom is what made this country great. What's on the Statue of Liberty's tablet in her hand? It's the date of the Declaration of Independence. It's freedom. what's on the bronze tablet at the base? I think it's been moved inside now, but it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." Freedom. That's what made this country great. Freedom and liberty, really two sides of the same coin. Freedom is what makes this country great. And the reason why this country is having problems is because we are restricting what made it great. Freedom. If tyranny, if a police state is what makes a country successful, then the USSR should still be in business and thriving. East Germany should be the Taiwan of the world. But they aren't. So why are we constantly trying to emulate them? Why don't we learn from their mistakes? Speaking of government control, for a prime example of this hypocrisy by conservatives, look what happened when the Obama administration floated the idea about privatizing TVA. With all the howling and screaming from both sides of the aisle, you'd think he had suggested we tear down the Statue of Liberty. Now, the liberals and the Democrats, okay, I get their argument. But the Republicans and conservatives, they're being hypocrites. Should we privatize garbage pickup? Oh, sure, yeah. Competition's good. Free market, yeah, we love that. Yeah, good idea there. How about some of the other government services that are none of the government's business to be doing? Yeah, let's get rid of those too. Those little things here and there, okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, well, let's dump TVA because it isn't the government's business to be doing. Certainly not stipulated by the Constitution. Whoa, hold on, Patrick. Now, that's a bad idea. We don't want to do that. The electricity rates will rise. Well, isn't that the idea of the free market? Electricity rates would reflect the true value of the product. No. See, if it's something they want, then it's okay for the government to be doing, even if it's not in the Constitution. In fact, you can just ask Republican Marco Rubio, and we've played this before.
Now, I believe in federal financial aid. I couldn't have gone to college without it.
So, loaning money to Mr. Rubio for his education is something the taxpayer of this country should be doing because it benefits him.
One of these programs is Medicare. It's especially important to me. It provided my father the care he needed to battle cancer and ultimately to die with dignity. And it pays for the care my mother receives right now.
So apparently taking money from taxpayers of this country to pay for Mr. Rubio's parents' medical care, that's something this country should be doing as well, because it will benefit his parents. And I guess him too, because it gets him off the hook as far as caring for his parents is concerned. I've played those clips before on this show, and I'm not just picking on Marco Rubio. His fellow Republicans have made similar stands. We need to cut government, unless it's something I want. Well, then we can't cut that. Here are two clips from Ronald Reagan's inaugural speech in 1981. I've played these before on the show as well. But for the benefit of the constantly growing base of new listeners, I'm going to do it again.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people. Well, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government.
Now, Mr. Reagan recognized even back then government was out of control, and it is even more so today. In 1981, when he gave that speech, the spending on the federal budget was right under $3,000 per person. The gross federal debt was at $4,300 per person. In 2013, this next year, federal spending will have risen to $11,600 per person. And the gross federal debt is going to be at $54,000. $54,440 is the number per person. So the debt has jumped over $50,000 per person in this country. And the people in Washington want to say we don't have a spending problem. All right, we're up on the half-hour break here on the Patrick Riggins Show already. Yeah, looking out, watching it rain. Oh, it's awful outside. Good thing you're inside listening to me. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about that White House Correspondents' dinner, and we'll talk a little bit about Syria and whatever else comes up here on the Patrick Riggins Show on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. A little Barry White there. Tori dancing around.
Oh, baby.
Is that your Barry White?
That's my Barry. Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
That's as basic. That's as low as I can go.
I don't know. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. You just need that, was it the handkerchief? You got to wipe your brow while you're singing.
Old Barry was so good, he could do whatever.
Yeah. He's still alive, isn't he? No, I thought, I got something in the back of my head said he's dead.
No, he died, I think about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Oh.
I don't know.
But his music lives on.
Yes.
Just like this radio show will do when I'm dead and gone. Hopefully.
Wow, getting a little morbid, ain't we there, dude?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Bringing the mood down on a rainy day. That's what you need to do.
Jeez,
don't be happy. Right. Yeah, that's why you need to come in here drunk and then just oh, my life's awful. Just like the guy that sits at the bar. Go, get away from me. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear it. Go away. All right. Yesterday, or more correctly, I guess, last night, was the White House Correspondents' dinner, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of it or not, but am I the only one offended by this little gala? All these people come together to laugh at each other's jokes and have a good time, and all the while they are running this country into the ground. But everyone just sits there. Even the politicians from both sides of the aisle, they all sit there, laugh and cut up and have a grand old time and slap each other on the back. Yeah, we're just all one big happy family. Yeah, if you want any more proof that these politicians in Washington do not have your best interests at heart, just watch them all get together at a function like this. They all eat together, laugh, make jokes. It's all one big game to them because they aren't living under the same rules we have to. They pass these onerous laws and regulations and then exempt themselves from them and expect the rest of us just to sit here and take it. And they wonder why Congress's approval ratings are in the basement. And just watch these people. They'll stand up and make speeches lamenting the policies of the president, talking about how whatever he is proposing will derail the country, how Obamacare is not going to work, but then they don't do anything about it. And when they have a nice dinner, they are more than happy to attend, laughing and cutting up. Yeah, having a great time with the president. This person who the day before, they vowed to do whatever was necessary to save the country from him. Now they're his best buddy. Sure, everyone eager to attend this dinner, to be seen and talked about. That's what's really important to them. If it was this country, they wouldn't be caught dead at that dinner. If they didn't really agree with what was happening in Washington, they would be spending their time working to reduce this massive government. They couldn't stomach being in the same room as people who want to take this country and turn it into some socialist paradise. Just think about it. Would you go and have dinner with someone who is trying to tear down your house, who is trying to set fire to your yard, would you sit and laugh at their jokes? Of course you wouldn't. If I asked you why, you would tell me it's because this person's trying to tear down my house. Why would I want to hang out with them? I can't stand that person. They're trying to undo what I've worked years to build. So, if it wouldn't work on that level, why would it work on the Washington level? It's because these people don't really see anything wrong. Sure, they disagree on the amount of government meddling, the government intervention, but they don't disagree at all with the fact that we're doing it. They all want government interfering in your life. They all want to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Republicans, Democrats, all these politicians, with a few exceptions. So few I can probably count them on one hand. But all these people want to control your life. They all want to be in the, quote, ruling class. That class that inhabits government at all levels, from the federal level all the way down to your local city council. Just look at this recent FAA legislation that passed in order to put the air traffic controllers back on the job. Both Democrats and Republicans voted for it, and Obama is expected to sign it. So spending more money is bad. The sequester is supposed to stop that. But both sides decided to alleviate the supposed air traffic control crisis by allowing the FAA to dip into another funding account to pay for the controllers. Of course, that shortfall will have to be made up. So we aren't really fixing any problem so much as we're kicking the can down the road again, something Washington is just really good at doing. The truth of the matter is, this is just one more area the government shouldn't be involved with. Nothing in the Constitution addresses air traffic control, mainly because flying machines weren't invented at that time. But our founders knew the Constitution would run into problems such as this. So they wrote in the amendment process to allow government to do additional things as the people saw fit. And I've yet to see an amendment allowing for the coordination of air traffic over the United States. But Patrick, you'll say, that's part of the FAA's job, which was created by Congress. Well, that's correct. But should Congress be able to create agencies and then give them lawmaking powers? Powers that should be exclusively reserved to Congress. The Constitution says Congress writes the laws, not the FAA, not the EPA, Congress. If we wanted to solve the problem, we would just privatize air traffic control. Yeah, you can hear those big government types screaming again, just like they did when we talked about privatizing TVA. How many flights are going to crash? How can we trust a private FAA? The question is, how can you trust the government to run the air traffic control system? Would you trust the government to build and operate your heart-lung machine? I bet you wouldn't. I bet you wouldn't even trust the government to build you a television. No thanks, I'll take the one that's made in Taiwan. But we let this backward bureaucracy run one of the busiest airspaces in the world. Besides, as I just stated, it isn't allowed in the Constitution. And if it isn't allowed in the Constitution, the government shouldn't be doing it, period. If we want to allow the government to do it, then we should amend the Constitution to allow it. Plain and simple. The only problem is, if we did that for the FAA, if we amended the Constitution, then the population of this country might decide, hey, we need to do that for everything else the federal government's doing. And more than likely, a lot of stuff wouldn't make it through that amendment process. Consequently, the federal government would have to give up some power and money, and you and I both know it isn't about to do that without a fight. As I've said before on this show, the government's lifeblood is money. Our lifeblood, humans, is air, water, and food. We can survive without money. But the government can't. And just like you would fight for your life should someone try to cut off your air supply, the government is going to fight for its life if you try and cut off its money supply. That's the nutrition that keeps government alive. That's why I say don't expect this to be easy, cutting back on government. It is going to react just like you would. It's going to fight for its survival. It's going to scream. It's going to threaten and maybe even kill if it has to in order to stay alive. That's how far this monstrosity has gotten out of hand. Like the fictional computer HAL in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, it is almost self-aware, living on its own. And if you try and limit it, it will react violently if need be to survive. We are coming up on the last break on the Patrick Riggins Show already.
Nobody's going to cut off my air supply.
Yeah.
Because I'm all out of love.
Out of love, yeah.
I'm so lost without you.
Yes. I was wondering when that might rear its ugly head.
That's what I was giggling about.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Syria. Yeah, Tori's over here singing Air Supply now. Hey, who sang that song again?
I know that one.
Yeah,
I have an older brother. I know that setup.
You just didn't want the rest of that. All right, this is Patrick Riggins on the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. When we return, we'll get off this domestic stuff and talk a little bit about Syria when we come back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. Up for the last segment here. Probably
it is
the last
a sad
show
day,
here.
man. It really is. It really is. It's raining, and it was Corda's last day, and now it's yours, and of course it affects me because you guys are my family every Sunday and have been for over a year, and just it's kind of depressing. I'm sorry. I'm just emotional, man.
Tori's going to bring us all down.
I'm sorry, but I've been holding on to this all day, and this is the last 10 minutes, so I'm just going to let it fly.
He's just going to, you're going to be, like I said, that last segment, you're going to be the drunk guy at the bar just moaning.
Well, this is not going to be my last rodeo, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just, I hate to say bye to you guys,
Well, and it may not, who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So
we never know.
No, you don't. You may end up over there. Where I'm going.
But as of today, whenever I leave and pull out of the parking lot, that's the reality of the day. So it still stinks, and I'm still a little bummed about it.
The tears will start. It's like dropping it's like a mom dropping her kid off at kindergarten, and then driving out of the parking lot. Oh, my baby's.
Well, I'm going to call Corda here in a little bit. We're going to get everybody back down here. We're going to have a group hug before everybody leaves. So.
Yeah. I may not be present for that.
Go ahead.
All right. I want to get to something about Syria just because it's back in the headlines, and we have accusations on both sides that the other is using chemical weapons. And, of course, this has people in Congress and the administration, along with these other countries around the world, itching to get in on that fight in that country. Now, I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again right here. Do you ever notice how anxious everyone is to go to war when it isn't them going? These leaders of Britain, France, and now the United States, they all want to intervene in this war. They can't wait to get over there. Or more correctly, I should say, they can't wait to send their people to go fight over there. The leaders themselves aren't going. If they were, they might think twice about it. But when they are sending other people, then look out. They are stampeding the Syrian border. I've addressed this question on Syria a couple of times on this show back last summer. Last summer! That's how far ahead you are when you listen to this show. Here are a couple of clips from Ron Paul I played back then on a floor speech he gave in Congress.
There are no national security concerns that require such a foolish escalation of violence in the Middle East. There should be no doubt that our security interests are best served by completely staying out of the internal strife now raging in Syria.
How correct he was then, and he still is now. We don't have any business meddling in Syria. But just like the government can't stay out of your business, it isn't going to stop sticking its nose into another country's business either. Here's an interesting question posed by Ron Paul during that same speech as those previous clips I just played.
Would we tolerate Russia in Mexico demanding a humanitarian solution to the violence on the U.S.-Mexican border? We would consider that a legitimate concern for us, But for us to be engaged in Syria, where the Russians have a legal naval base, is equivalent to the Russians being in our backyard in Mexico.
And that's why all these other countries are so interested in getting involved. It's the Cold War all over again. Yeah, if we don't get involved, Russia's going to, and they'll end up with a satellite state in the Mideast. At this point in the game, why are we still worried about Russia? You know, we've proven our economic system stronger. Well, the one we're supposed to be following. It seems lately we're trying to emulate theirs more than ours. But we've proven over the long run, we'll win out. Freedom and liberty wins. Yet, despite that evidence, we still don't believe. We still have to interfere in the internal workings of another country. Last week, the U.S. announced an additional $110 million in aid to Syria's rebels. And that's on top of at least $60 million pledged in February and $45 million last September. And that doesn't include our covert aid that they send over there. The U.S. is also deploying troops to Jordan at a price tag of $70 million and has sent military advisors to that country to help the rebels across the border in Syria. As we get more and more involved, Syrian officials have warned that increased American intervention and support for the rebels, which, ironically, the regime over there in Syria, they identify those people as terrorists. Our support's going to lead to a fire of terrorism spreading throughout the world. So, if we had people who started fighting against our government, they are terrorists, just like the Syrian leaders label the people fighting against their government. But in our case, we can kill them. But in Syria's case, they can't. And that's what I want you to think about every time you hear one of these idiots talking about Syria. Well, we are up on the last of the show here, the last show on WNOX, Patrick Riggins Show. More than likely, and I don't feel bad about saying this, because WNOX is switching formats. So we're not like leaving one talk radio station going to another. But you can probably find us just a little bit down the dial around 98.7. Maybe May the 4th. But definitely by May the 11th. The only thing is our time will change. It'll be Saturday at 4 to 5. But that's where you'll find the Patrick Riggins Show going somewhere else. What I would like to do right here at the end of the show, I want to thank Ed for giving me a shot at doing a radio show and putting up with all my ignorance. I want to thank David, also known as Shine, for helping put everything together, doing the announcing, working my promos in each week, and for patiently answering all my questions. Also, Harry, Mike, Johnny, Lewis, everyone else down here at the station. I'd also like to thank our Sunday crew, Brad, our call screener, sitting out there, and especially Tori, the show producer and person sitting to my left every week, helping to keep everything running smoothly. So,
aww.
Yeah. I remember when I first came in, real quick, first came into this show, I'm watching the minute hand tick down. I've never done radio before. And I turned, asked Tori, I said, what are you going to do if I jump up and run out of here? And Tori just said, I'm going to tackle you because I'm not doing your show. So I figured I should stay.
I'll just get you through that first little jitter, and once you get rolling, you forget all about it.
Yep. And
now look at you.
Now look at me. I'm
semi-pro.
Semi-pro, exactly. Not quite there, but working the way there. Well, if you want more information about us, the Patrick Riggins Show is not going away. It's just changing, moving. You can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show, facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Be sure and hit that like button. It'll keep you updated. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com, also /Patrick Riggins Show. And if you want to email us, patrickrigginshow@gmail.com. So you can join me next week somewhere where, once again, I'll be fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins. Have a great week, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
See you later.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on The Patrick Riggins Show, every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.